So moving on. This one, we're still going to use a clip from Sean. So the hop step. Um, this is kind of an interesting one. I've never talked about this before. Um, this is the clip, I believe. Or is that the clip? No. Where's the clip? Oh no, hold up. Where's my clip? Yeah, here it is. Okay. So I've talked about this for years, but like the argument, the 3-step arc, the 5-step arc is complete BS. I teach the arc, be in the right position when the shot's taken. That's my arc. Okay. And back in the 90s and the early 2000s, this idea of like, hey, what do you play? Do you play a 3-step arc or a 5-step arc? I'm kind of a 4.5-step arc guy. I never gave, like, I never cared. Like, I didn't understand the process because I think because I was an ice hockey goalie at one point, ice hockey goalies, like, you're shuffling and you're in position or you're not. As a soccer goalie doesn't say like, what do you play? Do you play a 12-step arc or a 24-step arc? What's your that conversation never happens, and it crept up in lacrosse. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, why are we even like bringing this? Is not a thing. Okay, so one of the things here, I'll just play this clip. I'll play this through once. So watch the clip. You see him kind of hopping, right? Like hopping like a bunny, right? Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So one of the things. Um, so what is a hop step? A hop step is basically you're moving your weight with like a little jump, and you're making maybe smaller jumps than you would if you were taking a step. Now, what I like about the hop step is that it's kind of like in tennis. There's the split. There's the split step, like when you land just as the other player is hitting the ball. And what that takes advantage of is it takes a little bit of advantage of like of an elastic reaction in the muscles. And so it allows the athlete to kind of land and then spring. It's stored energy, right? The problem is that a lot of kids, I think a lot of goalies, if they do that, they get up and down. And what I see on Instagram a lot now is is a lot of goalies that when they move, whether it's right to left or right, they're tall, and then they're in their stance and they're low again, and then they're tall and they're in their stance, they're low again. And I've talked about this before. Like, I just don't think the brain likes that. I just think that when we're doing up and down, um, and what happens is your goalie, if your goalie isn't very strong, what happens is there when they move down, it takes a lot to return that mass. Let's put it that way. Now, Sconone, being like a big dude, he's strong in his lower body. Okay, there's no question about that. And so what I like here is that he's adopted this as a way to move across the face of the cage and to stay. Um, if you watch his head, he's not really. There's a little bit of a bounce there, but his overall stance is the same. And one thing I can't stand is seeing goalies go from like I'm moving to now I'm ready, and they get some crazy stance, their hand high and their arms straight and whatever. No, your athletic stance is your base athletic stance is unique to you, but there's um, principles that apply to every athlete, no matter how old they are, right? And so I like that he stays in that position, and he gets this little hop step. Now the problem is the only problem that happens with this is that there's a moment where you are in the air, just slightly, right? And then your cleats have to sink into that grass, and then you get to move. Okay, so so there is an argument that, hey, if you do it at the wrong time, it's really hard to. Uh, I mean, you got to wait for gravity to bring you down. Okay, um, now if you were to step that, where basically the left foot is planted and the right foot reaches, and then the back foot comes up. If you time that, that takes longer than if you were to just do a little hop, right? A little hop. Um, and the other thing is like when you step, the argument is like, well, if my back foot is planted, whichever that foot may be, if I'm moving to my right, that'd be my left foot, and that shot comes, I still have something in contact with the ground that I may be able to, you know, plant like and rotate from. So let's say, like in this particular play, let's say this player gets a shot off, and you're in a step. Well, you have a chance to like basically you can use your adductors to pull yourself back. Like it's milliseconds, right? Um, so the idea, I think, is one better than the other? You know, I, I think if when Sconone plays very deep in the cage, which I think is I think has hurt him as he moved into the PLL. I think it worked okay in the MLL, which basically acted like the JV of professional lacrosse, like last year, 2 years ago. But at the PLL ranks, I think it kind of hurt him because what I would rather see is that he's further out towards the shooter. Now, the problem is when you're further out, you have these movements to keep up with the shooter, depending on how fast the shooter's going. Those movements have to be either more frequent or bigger, right? That you have to be more athletic to stay online where you want to be with that shooter if you're further out. Does that make sense? Right? If people need a clarification on that, just let me know. But the idea is like when you play closer to the cage, you can get away with these little hops and still be in position. And if you're if you're if you're a little bit behind or a little bit ahead, you're not that far away from probably being in a good position. But I want my goalies to be further out towards the shooter to take advantage of that base save potential, that surface area that they take up in the cage. Okay, so so I like this. Obviously, he's done this enough to know how to do this. The problem with a young goalie, if you go out tomorrow and you try it, they won't like it. They won't be strong enough to do it just yet. And they probably won't be patient enough to stick with it to really make it work. Does it work? Yes, I think it does. Okay. It also, it allows a goalie, one of the things that I believe is good about the hop step is it leaves a goalie more kind of in a balanced position, like they're even, like their right half and their left hand. And when we look at stopping five hole shots in the future, and we want goalie, like I teach goalies to drop to their knees like a butterfly in a hockey goalie. All right, the stick's coming too, but those knees have to go down. And if you're balanced like this, it's easier to do that. If you're stepping and you get like some rotation in there and like you get some rotation in the hips, it's harder to do that. I think it's just a little bit different. And you end up seeing goalies where they like to drop one knee kind of tentatively to the ground instead of dropping both knees down like a baseball catcher would to block like a pass ball. Okay. Um, um, so so just keep that in mind. So I really like this. Like I like how he does it here. It works, and he takes it all the way across the post. Bump, 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 and the guy tries to sneak it near post, and he's there. Okay. The other thing too here, little thing, is that he realizes, again, he's early to that post, to that near side post. And as that shot comes, he knows he's not going to be able to get his stick to most of it. So about here, he knows anything to his right side, he's just got to get his body in front of it, and then you're closing off that space. And I think he takes it off the shaft. He takes it off the end of his shaft, which I love. Right? I love that. That is a save of the future. Is that bottom hand, that the butt end, like whatever, you're just flooding that space with your bottom hand, like an ice hockey goalie would make with their blocker, and he makes the save. And I just love that. Right? I really love that. So that's really good. Okay. Um, so good stuff. Okay. Um, all right. So any questions on that? This is from the last question. It's just a really hard shot to hit to be dodging down the right alley to stick a shot to the right side of the cage. Um, I believe, like, I'm not disagreeing with you, Alex. What I believe though is that when you get a player who's strong enough physically, they can put the ball wherever the hell they want. So, but I like the idea of basically, I believe the lacrosse goalie of the future they can't play every shot straight up. You can't be looking at a player coming down the alley and going, well, there's a 50% chance he's going to go to my right side or a 50% chance he's going to my left side. It just doesn't work. I just don't think a lacrosse goalie has enough time to mentally process seeing the ball, knowing where it's going, and then moving in front of it, unless they're going to basically deploy more of their body to make those saves. So I'm with you. Okay. Um, all right. So just to finish off a thought here on this is your goalie needs to spend time. We were joking a couple weeks ago about, I guess it was like the Lehigh goalie juggling on the sideline, and again, I know, I think Andy Wologowski posted that, but the idea is that, uh, I joke that there's like 1,000 other things that a goalie can be doing in that time, and one of the things a goalie can be doing, even at the D1 level, or Lehigh's not D1, but the idea is that a goalie can be working on their movement from in 6-foot sections, right? Basically post to post, right? And you can throw down whatever you want, to do that. Like, I have not met a field lacrosse goalie yet who has spent enough time doing that. One thing I'll just point out here on this clip as well is if you watch Sconone, all right, so he's on the left post, all right. Just see if you can see him feel for the posts, right? Did you guys catch it? Did you guys see it? Did you guys see it? Did you guys see him reach for the post? Right, 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 right. Never happens. Never happens. That is something that, like, he's a pro goalie, so this is to be expected, but it shocks me to see goalies who've been playing for even a couple seasons who have to reach for the post to know where it is, and then they start reaching like it's some nervous tick, right? Uh, so uh, Alex, this actually answers your question right there. Don't you worry about the goalie getting lost in the crease when hopping? No, not if they've been practicing it, because you should, like a lacrosse goalie, if they have practiced it enough, should be able to move out. And this is one of the reasons why I think goalies have gotten lazy, right? Back in the 90s, when goalies started backing in to have more time to react to the ball, they got closer to the post, so that they never developed that sense of being away from the post. And that has ruined, I think, lacrosse goalies in a big, big, big way, because they're worried, like, if they come out to, like, if you're coming down the alley, or and I come out to take up a lot of space in the cage, and you move, they just have no idea where they are because they haven't practiced it. And that's where you've got to get the strings out and go, this is where I need to be when the ball carrier is here and here and here and here and here. Right. And look, field lacrosse goalies just don't spend enough time doing it because coaches don't demand it. And I think that's dumb. I really do. Right. So I don't worry about them getting lost if they've trained for it. But also, if I'm working with a young goalie in practice, I'm encouraging this movement away from the posts. And if they make a mistake, then you have a chance to correct it. But if you never, like, put yourself in a position to make the mistake, which is what a lot of coaches do, because they've run out of resources, like time, energy, money to teach it, whatever, um, then that's a problem. So, do you teach your goalies to hop on the same arc every time? I agree. Many goalies play too low. No, I teach goalies to be in the most aggressive positioning possible to the shooter, wherever that shooter is on the field. And and I teach my goalies to get further and further out, like, to force the top of the arc, like, to force it, because they don't, like, but to do that, you have, so the trade-off here, Alex, is that if I play out at you, yes, I have less time to move in front of the ball, but that's if you only believe you're going to stop it with your stick. If you're ready to put your knee on it, or your left testicle, or your right ovary, or your ankle, or your kneecap, if you're prepared to do that, then you're all over it, just like a hockey goalie would, or a soccer goalie would, right? Or a field hockey goalie would, right? So I teach my goalies to be as aggressive as possible based on the shooter and what the shooter's doing. So time and room shots. If it's, if they're for 15 yards out, like that's why I call it the base save potential. It's like, a bigger goalie has more chance to make a save than a smaller goalie, just because they take up more space in the net. Well, if we take that small goalie and move him out, then we're good. And then when you teach them how to be offset, the cool thing about teaching goalies to be offset, like we covered in the first clip, is they start to realize, like, oh, I know that the shot is probably coming over to my right, correct, or it's probably coming over to my left, depending on where they are, right? So no, I don't teach the same arc. I teach to be in the most aggressive positioning possible based on where the shot is on the field, right? So we have to adjust our play to the environment, not ask the environment to hopefully suit our play. Does that make sense? So, so that's a great question, by the way. It's a great question. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com, check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.